Hey folks, so what I'm going to show you now is how to actually use the debugger in Chrome to debug some JavaScript. And I'm basically reproducing the code that we just discussed in the previous video lecture. So first what you're going to do is get to the code we want to take a look at, and that's at www.stonehill.edu CS281. And go down to the bottom, and what we're looking for is, there we go. So we're looking for examples prototyping. So I'm just going to click on this link, and you'll see something that says prototype example, that says hi, yo, bye. And here's the URL that I want you to type in. So if you don't get it from the course website, you can just type this in. I'm going to pause the video for a second to type it in. All right, so once you have this program, what we want to do is actually take a look at it. So one way to look at it is to do a view page source. And what we see here is some HTML at the beginning, a body, an H1, and then embedded JavaScript. Now, normally I would say you would not want to do this. You'd use a link to JavaScript instead, which we talked about several lectures ago. But for this example, it's kind of nice that it's actually right in here inside the HTML. But normally you won't want to do that because we're always concerned about separation of concerns, and JavaScript really doesn't belong inside the content that is HTML. So this code reproduces what we talked about in the last video lecture. And when we run it, we see this output, hi, yo, bye. Let's take a look. Here's some code var p1 equals new person male, and then we say p1.say hi, and this ends up invoking this .say hi function, which writes out hi. Then we add a student prototype, and things are set up so that say hi for student actually says yo, and we then do say hi and say bye, and the say hi triggers yo, and the say bye triggers this say bye, which triggers this function, which says bye. Now you might notice that here I'm using document.write instead of console.log. Either way is fine. If you do document.write, it's going to end up showing on the HTML page. If you do console.log, it's going to end up writing out to the JavaScript console, which I'll show you in a second. All right, so I've just reviewed quickly how the program is going to run. And now what I'd like to do is I'd like to run it, but I'd like to run it in a way that you have some control as a programmer. So the way you can do that is go over here on the far right and click on this little button, and the button brings down a bunch of options, including under more tools, there's an option to bring up the JavaScript console. So do that. So if you bring up the JavaScript console, what you'll see is that a chunk of the browser is now taken up with this set of options that you can click on, plus a little console here. So this console actually lets you type in JavaScript. So I could say something like this. Var x equals 42. Then I could say, just if I type x and press enter, I'll see 42. I could say console dot, and I'm getting form completion, which is really nice. Console.log 42. So console.log x, and I'll see 42 printed out. I could even say document.write x. I'm not sure what's going to happen when I do this. Oh, there we go. Just wrote 42, and I replaced everything that was in the document with 42. All right, but that's not really what I want. That's not really what I want to show you. What I want to show you is it would be really cool to take a look at the source code for this page, as far as the as far as the JavaScript console is concerned. So the way you do that is you click on sources, and what sources will do is bring up the JavaScript that it thinks it can have access to on this page. So here's the same code, but this is code that's going to execute. And what we can do is set breakpoints. You can just run the program, click refresh, and run the program. But that's not super interesting. It's much more interesting to try and interact with the program as it executes. So I'm going to just bring this a little bit closer here so that we can look at some. I'm really interested in this watch expression. I'll show you that in just a second. And some of these other scope variables and stuff like that. All right, so this is my person prototype definition. This is my sayBye function definition. Right here, I'd like to set a breakpoint. So if I click on 21, I'll set a breakpoint. And now what I can do is if I click refresh, the program will execute, but it's going to stop at this breakpoint. And the breakpoint, I haven't executed the line of code yet. And I have kind of two options here. I can resume the script, in which case it'll execute to the end, or I can basically step over the next function call. So I can step over line 21 and go to line 22, or if I want, I can step into the next function call. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to step into the next function call. Before I do that, I'm going to set up a watch expression here. What I need to do is I'm going to say I'm really interested in the variable P1. Right now P1's undefined because the new person hasn't executed yet, but we're going to execute in just a second. So there we go. Okay, so I'm now in the constructor, the prototype constructor person. I haven't really executed any code in here yet, but I'm going to do that. Okay, so I'm now setting up gender. I'm now setting up say hi, and I'm now setting up say bye. Awesome. And now I'm ready to return. So I'm going to click the step out of current function. And I've just executed the code for line 21. Now P1 is no longer undefined. It has the value of person. And if I expand it, I can see that the gender is set to male. That's what I intended. There is a sayBye method, which is set to the function sayBye. There's a sayHi method, which is set to the function writeHi. And there's a prototype field, which is set to person. So this P1 is a reference to a person instance, and this proto is a reference to the person prototype. And if we take a look at the person prototype, it has a constructor, person, which takes a gender. There's the code for it. And it has a reference to the object prototype. And if we expand the object prototype, we saw all kinds of goodies that are associated with the object, which is the base type for all of the prototypes and object instances in JavaScript. Pretty cool. All right. So I'm going to continue executing here. This p1.sayHi says, let's say hi. So let's see what happens. P1.sayHi executes that function document, right? Say hi, and we'll just return out of that. And you'll notice over here that it now says hi. All right. So we'll execute a little bit more code. Student.prototype equals new person. All right. And student.prototype constructor equals student. So we're now setting up a student instance, or student prototype. And now we're going to create a student instance by executing this var s1 equals new student female. So I'm going to skip over that, but we're going to take a look at student in just a second. Okay? So we just went over that line of code and created a student instance. Now if I say I'd like to see s1, you see that s1 is a student instance. The gender is female. Say hi is going to do document write yo. That is then linked to a person prototype. which is a special type of person prototype because it's not actually a person, it's a student. And so so this field, this area here is not really a student. It doesn't say, the prototype doesn't say student, but it is a student, and it's a student prototype, and it has the student constructor. Gender's undefined. It has say by, which is what you would expect for a person instance, but in this case it's a student prototype. And it also has say hi. And then that has a link to a generic person, which is our person prototype. So remember, we're going from student instance to student prototype to person prototype. And then we're following the person prototype down to the object prototype. All right, so when we say s1.sayHi, we just start here at s1 and we look for say hi. Well, the expectation is that it's going to print yo. So let's let that execute, and you see yo gets printed. When we say s1.sayBye, we follow s1 and we're scanning through the prototype chains looking for a say by, and here we go. Say by is going to execute the function say by, which means it's going to write by. And we execute that piece of code, and it says bye. And now we're done.